Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Hope you are all having a great day, and a quick update on the mug situation. So I have them created, one white and one black. I'm just waiting for approval from Teespring, so hopefully another day or two, but of course, I'll keep you posted. Troy Teslake shared a really interesting chart that I wanted to share with you guys, basically comparing the Giga Shanghai Model 3 production ramp schedule to the Model Y. So as you can see, through August of this year, they are at about 21,700 units of the Model Y, compared to the same time with the Model 3 ramp, they were at 12,700. So the Model Y is roughly 70% ahead of where the Model 3 ramp was at. Now sure, with the Model 3, it was the first vehicle, everything was brand new, hiring employees and all of that. So the Model Y does have some benefits, but of course, each iteration and each new line that Tesla develops is going to be more efficient. So it was cool to see that side by side like that. Honestly though, what I am most excited to see is going to be how high this number gets. So if you take a look at where the Model 3 has kind of leveled off, as you can see into this year, we're sitting between 20 and 23,000 units produced monthly at Giga Shanghai. So that seems to be the rate that for now Tesla would like to keep the Model 3 at. Of course, that's subject to change, but it's been at that range since October of last year, so almost a whole year set in that range. So I think that'll hold steady at least for the time being. So I think eventually the Model Y will definitely hit 30,000 a month and probably push 40,000 plus, but now we'll see how long it takes to get there. And just a real quick note, I think I have finally decided what I want to do over on Patreon content wise. So some of you that have been here for some time know that I used to do deep dives on the channel for certain topics. I want to start doing that again, but I want to do it over on Patreon as a way to say thank you for all of the support. I have one coming about right to repair, which at first glance may seem really dry, but honestly, once you get into it, it's so critically important and a really big deal for the world at scale. And second, I want to talk a little bit about these wirelessly charged roads, which are getting a lot of attention and more people are promising that they're going to have them. So we're going to take a look. But to all my patrons, thank you very much, and be on the lookout for those episodes. A quick note on Ford sales for July of this year, down 32% year over year to 120,000 units. But I want to highlight the EV segment. So their portfolio had new record sales in July, with sales up 57.5% on sales of 9,100 vehicles for the month. The Mach-E did 2,800, and the Ford F-150 Power Boost Hybrid sadly did 4,400 sales. And personally, the number I am watching closely is the monthly Mach-E sales. I really think Ford needs this vehicle to do well. So here we get a very interesting update from the updated owner's manual shared by Analytic ETH on Twitter, a Tesla owner. It says, quote, if the Model 3 and Y detects lights from an emergency vehicle when using auto steer at night, on a high-speed road, the driving speed is automatically reduced and the touchscreen displays a message informing you of the slowdown. You will also hear a chime and see a reminder to keep your hands on the wheel. When the light detections pass or cease to appear, autopilot resumes your cruising speed. Alternatively, you may tap the accelerator to resume your cruising speed. Never depend on autopilot features to determine the presence of emergency vehicles. Model 3 and Y may not detect lights from emergency vehicles in all situations. Keep your eyes on your driving path and always be prepared to take immediate action. So, interesting note number one, it seems that this will only be at night and on high-speed driving roads, which is somewhat ambiguous, at least the latter part. And this is only for Model 3 and Model Y, no mention of the S or X, at least not yet. But here's why this is really interesting. So, of course, we have the NHTSA investigation into Tesla's autopilot, specifically how they handle these emergency vehicle situations. And then NHTSA asked all these other automakers to also share their data. So it's now this huge group that's essentially being investigated. Now, here comes Tesla with a simple over-the-air update that solves at least a portion of that entire investigation that once again is focused on this specific emergency vehicle situation. Now, yes, it sounds like Tesla will still have to solve this problem in the daytime, and we still have to wait and see how well this new software update works. But it's a reminder that Tesla has the ability and the hardware and the software stack to essentially do these updates and say, hey, NHTSA, here's the problem solved. Now, let us do what we were doing. But these other automakers should actually be forced to have a feature like that, but they don't have the ability to do a simple update and get it there. Now, of course, I'm not saying that this investigation is just going to end, not by any stretch, but I do think once the regulators see what Tesla can do and how quickly they can implement these changes via over-the-air updates, they should definitely be impressed if they are not biased. And the last thing I want to say is why just at night? Well, I don't really know for sure, but my guess would be, of course, the contrast of those flashing lights at night is going to be much easier to see than it would in the daytime. Or perhaps most of those accidents with the emergency responder vehicles happened at night, so Tesla is starting with the low-hanging fruit. I'm not positive, those are just my guesses, but very good to see this update for sure. I want to share a quick development at Giga Texas that Joe Tetmeyer shared. Be sure to go subscribe to Joe if you're not already. He does really good work with his drone flyovers, and he does a lot more than just that. So go ahead and take a look, but here's the clip.
We have another exciting development to talk about today, and that is the assembly of GigaPress number 4. In my previous video, I captured these images, and you can see with the circle and the arrow there. Here's a blow up, a closer view. On the left-hand side, GigaPress number 3 is being assembled, but also GigaPress number 4 is being assembled. And this is in addition to the 2 foundations that are being created as well. And as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner photo here, I kind of outlined that mount for GigaPress number 4. And on the left lower, you can see a close-up of the silver-covered wrapping over the parts for GigaPress number 4. And in this updated image from Jeff Roberts on the 18th of September, you can see the wrapping is off, and as I show with the illustration, this is the part of the GigaPress that's being installed. And for those wondering, I believe that these that we see in these images are the 6,000-ton Model Y GigaPresses, not the 8,000-ton Cybertrucks, which will come later.
So thank you, Joe, and go subscribe to his channel below. Next up, it seems as though that issue that we were all talking about with the Model 3 ground clearance in India being a problem, well, sadly it's come to fruition, so Tesla is going to have to solve this problem. The Model 3 was found to have insufficient ground clearance during testing on the roads, sources privy to the matter have told Autocar India. The automotive agency responsible for the testing found that the car bottomed out on 160 of the 200 speed breakers it attempted, and has recommended re-engineering the suspension to increase the ground clearance by 25 millimeters up to 165 millimeters. So right now the Model 3 ground clearance is 140 millimeters, which is about 5.5 inches, and that additional 25 millimeter increase they are asking for is almost 1 inch. I think it's like 0.98 inches. But so far, the Model 3 and Y do not have the adaptive air suspension like the Model S and X do, so it's not a simple matter of raising the ground clearance. They would have to re-engineer some things, and I personally don't know how difficult it is. If any of you are more well-versed in that area, please let us know below. So there have been some talks that, maybe Tesla will take this opportunity to include the adaptive air suspension on the Model 3, or maybe at least for the Indian market. Now, the Model Y should be fine because the Model Y's ground clearance is 6.5 inches, and basically this agency is asking the Tesla Model 3 to have a ground clearance of about 6.4, 6.5 inches in that range. So that fact has led to Autocar speculating that the Model Y might actually be the first vehicle to be imported in India. I can't imagine Tesla was completely oblivious to this being a possible outcome, so I'm sure they have been considering solutions. Now we just wait and see what it's going to be. Tasmanian shared an article basically sharing a few different anecdotes of different provinces in China, and specifically registration centers where drivers are awaiting their new licenses. They're all flooded and mostly with Model Y vehicles, specifically the new standard range and the cheaper variant. As we've talked about many times before, this should come as absolutely no surprise. We knew the demand for local mainland China was going to be very strong in the third month of the quarter. And here you see a video, albeit a pretty blurry one, of the situation at one of the registration centers. Most of the vehicles are indeed Model Ys. There were some funny comments in the article. One user said he was jokingly complaining that the Model Y sales were too high, as certain users were waiting hours and hours to get their new license registration. Elon actually responded to Ava with regard to that article, saying Giga Shanghai makes cars for export in the first half of the quarter, then cars for faraway parts of China, then cars for nearby parts of China. Net result is a crazy wave of deliveries end of quarter. It is tough on our team, so we're hoping to reduce the wave in Q4 and Q1. And in terms of beyond Q1 of 2022, hopefully by that time, Giga Texas and Berlin can help to alleviate this wave situation when it comes to deliveries. Motor Magnet on Twitter shared the very first Model 3 has landed in South Africa. This unit was privately imported from the UK for a customer and will be on the road soon. The company importing the vehicle expects to receive a batch of Tesla units early next year. Would definitely be pretty cool to be that owner who has the only Tesla in the country for at least a period of time. Next up, the Cybertruck guy on Twitter said he just got an actual auto insurance quote in New York for $500 a month for a Model Y. He's floored. If it's the best he can find, he says he can't keep the car, and he tags Elon. Elon chimes in and says the regulatory process for approval to offer insurance is extremely slow and complex. No surprises there, varying considerably by state. Tesla is hoping to offer real-time, based on actual driving history, insurance in Texas next month. Probably next year before we get approval in New York. So an October release for insurance in Texas is definitely a good sign, especially ahead of production at Giga Texas, and it will become the second state to offer Tesla insurance, second to only California. Rodrigo asked Elon, well, what about Mexico as they face the same problem? Elon said, hopefully worldwide long term, but insurance is a regulatory labyrinth and escape room. You can just think of a labyrinth like a maze, so this insurance regulatory process is, as mentioned, to no surprise, a very laborious one that takes time. I can only imagine how frustrating it is, but just like anything in life, once you do a few reps and you get the hang of how to go about it, what the best practices are, how to efficiently do certain things, then hopefully Tesla can speed up this process. But in the early stages, it's going to take a long time, not just for Tesla to develop their software and their own system and source code, but as Elon said, to work with the regulators, share what they're doing, and be able to ultimately get approval. Elon was asked if the FSD visualization was going to come for non-FSD beta testers in Europe. Elon said, good point, we could enable the visualization before control. We'll enable that option hopefully next month. So would be nice for Tesla to throw a bone to some of these users to at least have the FSD visualization on the car. Maybe Tesla could use that data, but not actually have that system operating those vehicles. Moving on, Ford just struck a deal with Redwood Materials for EV battery recycling, and it's actually a lot more than just recycling batteries. Ford is investing $50 million, which is basically nothing. It's a drop in the bucket for Ford, into Redwood Materials. Now, Redwood already recycles batteries from Nissan and Specialized, which deals with e-bikes, and of course scrap from Tesla and Panasonic at Giga Nevada. But Redwood plans to work with Ford to figure out plans for everything from helping to process scrap material to finding new life for worn down batteries with ample capacity remaining, think battery storage, to helping Ford create new batteries out of salvaged lithium, nickel, cobalt, and copper. Now, I know we all have mixed opinions about Ford, but I personally am really rooting for JB Straubel and Redwood Materials, not just because of the EV movement, but for him on a personal level. After watching what he and his family had to go through with what happened to his wife, it's honestly just such a tragic and sad story. So I'm really rooting for JB, and hopefully he can pour himself into something positive, namely Redwood Materials, and really do something great for humanity. That is all for today. Please take a second to like the video. If you did, I hope you all have an awesome day, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.